Welcome in. Is it comfy? Seems like a comfy couch. This is great. This is great.
Lucked out how you pushed me.
I lucked out.
Lucked out how you pushed me in this chair.
Miss Dawson, nice to meet you. I don't know if we've met before, but it's a pleasure to meet you. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Good, good.
How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Well, I'm so excited to jump into some questions. Right now, I'm about to pick your brains.
It's like Carly and I are, it looks like Carly and I are both the host, doesn't it?
You are.
Thank you so much, cast of AHSOKA, for being here. We love to have you guys. Big round of applause again for the AHSOKA cast, everybody.
It's the villain couch. It's the villain couch.
Wait. I thought they told me Jabba the Hutt was the second host.
Yeah! Jabba the Hutt is hosting. That's so nice of you,
I
Carly.
love that. No problem. All right, so let's jump into it. So something I find really interesting about all four of you is your uniquely different Star Wars stories. For example, Lars, you had quite the long ride with your role as Thrawn, starring in the animated series Star Wars Rebels in 2016. And I've always found that transition from bringing a character from animation to live action to be fascinating. How much did your experience voicing Thrawn in animation inform your decisions when bringing this character to live action in AHSOKA? And was there anything new or specific that you applied to your role?
I think I got to know the character over those, for 5 years that we did it. And the thing is, when you're voice acting, for an animated thing, you actually do it in the room anyhow. You're actually doing the character. You're moving your body around like the character, because that'll sort of transfer into what you're doing with your voice. So in many ways, I had practiced, but then I was my pants to do this, because how do you sort of transfer that over into live action? Because there's certain things you can do with your voice when you do the animated series. You need to pump life into it in a different way. So it'll be more singy. You have to bring it to life in a different way. And when you're then there doing it as a live thing, you can't do that. Because there's so much.
You don't want to do a musical? We're not going to do AHSOKA the musical? Is that what you're telling me? We're not going to have a musical episode?
What?
That's a spoiler. You couldn't do that. No, but I mean, you have to sort of bring it down to another level and then still keep the character, keep the poise and all that. So, we made it. We got it to work. So, yeah.
Amazing. Incredible. Well, bouncing off of your statement, Rosario, your portrayal of AHSOKA is so incredibly nuanced, and you bring the essence and unwavering fortitude of her character to life flawlessly. And but what's really interesting to me is how much fans have wanted you as our live-action AHSOKA, and literally for years going so far as to create fan art of you. So I believe that inspired Dave in casting you, possibly, I believe, is what I've heard. And so I'm curious, did you already feel a connection to the character before you were cast? Had you seen the fan art, or did it come as like a total surprise to you?
Well, it's like years ago, I think it's like 2015 or something like that, 16. Boss Logic had done a fan cast of me that I happened to see on Twitter. And I reposted it, #AHSOKA lives. Oh, nice. And it got some attention. And I remember it ended up in front of Dave, and he was like, he just kind of like filed in the back of his head. But he said he had asked for the Star Wars account to follow me.
Oh,
and then that became a thing that the fans were all like, yo, did you know that the Star Wars account is following you? What does that mean? And I'm like, I don't know. What does that mean? And then apparently it meant nothing because I got no calls for like years. And then I ended up getting a call from Dave, and it was right when they were just finished doing The Mandalorian. It was just about to come out. Right. And he had, like, I did this Zoom, well, it wasn't Zoom, it was what is the other one?
Microsoft
I can't remember
Teams?
Anymore. Skype. Yeah, we don't talk about Skype anymore.
FaceTime?
R.I.P. Skype. Yeah, Skype's been like really put behind. But that's how far back this goes, guys.
Wow.
But we were Skyping, and I had really bad Wi-Fi, so it only lasted like 2 minutes, which I was so glad. Because I open up the thing, and he shows me all this art he had drawn as me as the character, because when they realized that they were going to be doing The Mandalorian and what the timeline was, he knew that this character was going to be around her 40s, and which is where I was at. And so he'd had that filed in his head and was like, actually, that really works out. She does look like this character. And he had gone online and seen pictures with me and Hayden, because Hayden and I know each other from when we had done an acting class together. When I, like, literally almost 30 years ago. It was 30 years ago this summer. Like, 30 years ago next summer will be, like, our anniversary of meeting. And he was like, that's just so weird. Like, I got to make that happen. And so it was the universe, guys. I don't know. It's like the universe made it happen. And thank God. It was so awesome. The force is strong.
Force is strong.
Force is strong.
It is. Well, incredible. I love that so much. Now, Eman, kind of going in order of how your characters have been established in canon, similar to Rosario, you had seen your character... You should have
started first, right? Because Jabba?
Well, yeah. It's true. George Lucas was like, I need you to play Jabba. Yeah. So similar to Rosario, you had seen your character on screen whose story had been previously established in animation. Did you feel a connection to your character before you were cast as Ezra Bridger? I almost said Jabba. Had you seen Star Wars Rebels before you got the call asking, we'd like you to be Ezra?
I did feel a connection to Ezra in a really kind of weird woo-woo way, and I had not seen Star Wars Rebels. I hadn't seen anything but Revenge of the Sith in my life up until that point. And then it's like a random long story, but long story made medium. I saw something going viral about Space Aladdin. I know. And I saw Space Aladdin, I thought, dude, I'm Space Aladdin for sure. I'm space as you can get, and I've been looking like Aladdin since I came out the womb. So I was like, okay, what's this all about, Space Aladdin? And I look up Space Aladdin, and it pulls up Ezra Bridger, and I see this picture of Ezra Bridger. I'm like, that's so weird. And I look in the mirror, I'm like, I look spitting image of this dude. Yeah, I love the sign language for that. And then, I Google like older Ezra Bridger just to see, and Pandora Young Art is her handle, had made an older Ezra Bridger like picture, him with a beard. And I was just trying to grow a beard at the time. And I was like, wait a minute, like this is awesome. So I was gonna like research it, and then had this like intuition is the best way I could call it. And it was like something was calling me to go open up Star Wars Rebels. I didn't have Disney Plus at the time. I had just Netflix, really. That was the only one I was paying for. And then but for some reason, and this is really cool, I go to my TV and I go to Disney Plus. I download the TV app or whatever. But when I go to download it, it's already downloaded. And this is my TV. I bought the Fire Stick, the Amazon Fire Stick. Ain't nobody ever used this before. And no one's ever lived in my place or anything. So I go to Disney, and someone is signed in, and it's the Walker family. And I didn't realize that at the beginning, but someone later was like, Walker, like Skywalker? And I was like, oh my God, this is weird. Like, was someone listening or what? And so then it's signed in, so I'm like, well, I guess cool, I don't have to pay for it. I didn't have the money at the time anyway. I was like, all right. So I go to Star Wars Rebels, I start the first episode, and within like 5 minutes, I get this like weird kind of feeling that someone's there with me in the room. Blah, blah, blah.
General Grievous.
Yeah, and Matthew.
Yeah, Matt Wood's in your closet.
Matthew's in my closet. Yeah. And then it just feels like Ezra shows up in the room, and we have this like internal dialogue, and he's kind of like, what's up, dude? You know, Ezra. I'm like, what is going on? This is super strange. Is this what I think it is? Like, are you like a ghost or what? And he's like, look, like, I would like to come alive, and I would like to come through you. And I'm like, dude, that's weird, but I'm...
He was so trying to come home.
I know, he was just using anything. He came to some
luckily, the witches got through to her, since you were like, what?
Dude,
yeah, exactly.
You found Ezra before anybody else did.
I did. Well, Ezra found me, if we're being honest. And we basically spiritually dap it up, and I'm like, I'm down. And the intuition was to send these photos to my agent and manager. way before, I hadn't even booked anything in LA for 3 years. I had quit acting at the time. I was making rap music. Like, I wasn't even focused on acting. So then I send this email to my managers, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to play this character when they cast for him. He's a Jedi in Star Wars. And they're like, what are you talking about, dude? You said you quit acting. Like, what do you... My manager calls me, he's like, is this one of your things? I'm like, yeah, it's one of those things. Like, one of those weird spiritual things.
Weird mood.
Yeah, but I said, well, let's see. And then 6 months later, get the anonymous audition. I'm certain it's Ezra because Ezra comes back. He's like, what's up? It's time. And then I do one self-tape, and then within a couple days, they're like, hey, you just got offered the role. And I was like, sweet.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, deep connection to Ezra prior to all of it.
That's amazing. So cool. So, I mean, how does it feel to be...
so cool.
It is so cool. So cool. Hashtag
so cool.
So cool.
That's crazy to start here.
Yeah, right. Okay, so Diana, I find your story to be very unique because we had never seen the character before. You got to introduce her in The Mandalorian Season 2, which that introduction was incredible. And now in AHSOKA, we learned that the Magistrate is now Morgan Elsbeth, a descendant of the Night Sisters. So did you know in the beginning that your character would have that dark arc in AHSOKA? And what was it like delving into that mysterious side of the Force?
Well, it was strange because when I worked on Mandalorian with Rosario, which I was already nervous, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to be there for her and make this work. And I didn't know, how this would all pan out. I didn't even know AHSOKA was even a possibility. But it was interesting that Dave had told me that I was a Night Sister, but that it would not be mentioned in The Mandalorian. So I didn't know where this journey was going to go. But I had to really rely on, number one, Timothy Zahn's work. And I know that sounds silly because he hasn't done anything on more, but I relied on the fact that whoever was in Thrawn's circle, because I knew that Rosario would be saying, where's Thrawn, right? That I assumed that the people that Thrawn would pick, that, Morgan would have certain characteristics very similar to the circle that Thrawn is surrounded by. Second, I had to look at Mirren, played by Tina, right? In Star Wars Fallen Order, and then I had to look at Clone Wars and just try to kind of piece, to put it all together. But I had no clue that she would have this amazing arc, and I'm so honored. And then what I'm really happy and thrilled about is if some of you haven't seen it yet, but on Star Wars Day they released Tales of the Empire, and
so
Lars and I were talking that it would really help. Put the pieces of the puzzle together of her arc, her history, and why it makes sense for the choices that she made as Morgan Elsbeth, and particularly for her people, trying to restore Dathomir. Yep. So, sorry if that was a spoiler for anybody. I just realized.
Spoilers. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's how it was for me. How
incredible. That's so cool. I'm trying so hard not to geek out because I am a nerd, very big nerd, and I'm like, this is Star Wars. Cool. Now, I really don't want to influence anybody to pull the curtain back too much and reveal everything, but fans always love hearing some behind-the-scenes stories about inside jokes on set, any fun experiences with each other. I may have heard through the grapevine, Rosario, about DJ Huyang.
Ooh. DJ Hu.
Yang. Huyang. Yes. And more so, is there a story that sticks with you from your time on set?
I had some fuck-ups.
Okay. I don't believe that.
That scene where he sort of, where we see him, with all the, night troopers. He comes in the first scene in episode 6, and I come up and approach these guys, and I'm going, Morgan Elsbeth. Yeah. I said, Morgan Freeman. Where'd that come from?
And then you had the voice of God.
Yeah. Yeah. And also with Ray, bless his, he's not here, but, yeah. Then I had to approach him, and you are? And I went to him, and it became homoerotic somehow. And we just broke down, But yeah, I tend to do some fuck-ups,
I'm a little upset right now to hear this. Because when we had the voice recording on the very last episode, and me and Sabine are trying to get to this ship in time, and they played this recording, and I honestly think he switched takes, because when I watch it now, I'm like, it sounds different than the one they played in the room. Because in the room, it was like, AHSOKA Tano. And I was like, Sabine, go in the back. We need to talk alone. Zaddy Thrawn is on. He just wants, he didn't even mention you. He doesn't care about you. Go in the back. This is not about you. And Dave would be like, oh my God, stop saying that. I'm like, you hear it. Every time you play it, it's like clear he wants me to catch him.
It's clear. We see it. The chemistry is through the screen. We see it.
I have a funny Lars story. Another one. So I had met Lars one time, just like I was being ushered across their set at one point, and he was in his full blue and everything. And as we passed him, they're like, "Oh, do you want to meet?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." But Lars was in his chair, like, like stoic, like this actually. And so we just very quickly, they're like, "Oh, this is Eman." I'm like, "Oh, hello, I pay Ezra." He's like, "Eman, nice to meet you." Kind of very Thrawn-like. And I was like, "Oh, okay, he's in character. That's cool." And then I go back to my room. We have like little rooms that we were kept in. And in between... that we're locked in.
It's like you were forced to be in the room.
forced to be in. That they lock from the outside. And I take naps when I can, in general, but also on set. And so I go to my room, I take a nap because I have like half an hour. And I expect the next knock to be the knock for them to say, like, "We need you." So I put on some classical music and I'm taking a nap. I'm in total peace, serenity mode, and I hear a knock, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, they must need me." So I go straight to the door and open the door. I'm like, "Hello, hey," and it's Thrawn.
I love how you're looking up like he's 7 feet tall.
Well, he is.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, you guys all if you took photo ops with him, he's a tall man.
Yes.
And I'm just in my socks, like no extra height. I'm like, "Oh, hello," and he's like, "Oh, were you napping?" And I said, "Yeah, I was just taking a nap." He goes, "Oh, I just wanted to ask, what is this beautiful song?" Because I had this classical song, it's called Infinity by Rosie Chan. I was like, and I check, I'm like, it's called Infinity by Rosie Chan. He goes, "Oh, it's lovely." I go, "Yeah." He's like, "I'll let you go back to bed now." And I'm like, "Okay, for sure." And I do exactly that, and I go back to bed. And then when I do wake up again to them knocking to tell me to go, I'm like, did that happen? Did I dream about Thrawn? Because that's a Thrawn thing to do, too, to like want to know my music taste. And I was like, I don't know if that was real or not. But that's my Lars story.
Incredible.
I think for me, there were so many amazing moments. I love the jingles that everybody would break into. Jingles. Go. Balls and charts.
Oh, balls and charts.
You have to understand.
Bolitos y charts.
Yes.
Balls. I need my balls back, charts.
I want my balls back, my balls back.
Give me my balls and charts.
That's it.
Charts,
no matter
charts, and balls.
Now, do you understand what balls and charts? It's the thing that helps. It's a
VFX thing.
Yeah,
it's like color
They have a
grading.
sphere that's like shiny on one side and matte on the other, and
White
then
balance.
they have a light color chart that they do when we have different screens behind us to make sure that it all matches when they switch rooms and colors and stuff like that.
And I thought that was always so hysterical. I loved it. No matter how tired we were, I loved it when she did this because we would all just wake up and just start like breaking out in laughter. But for me, my favorite funny moment, honestly, was when I was with Ray, and it's supposed to be Balin Skull rescuing, Morgan Elspeth, and she's in prison, and he's supposed to be using the Force to remove the handcuffs, and I'm there, and I'm standing up into my feet, and thank you, and apparently we were having technical difficulties because every time he would go like this, I would have to go. And I'm just struggling, me and the Force is not helping me, and I'm just trying to get out of these handcuffs. And we must have did like 5, 6, 7 takes, and I didn't know that at the time. Like Dave's in the background going, and I was just mortified because I'm just trying to do this right, and it just wasn't working. So yeah, that was my favorite moment. Was just with Ray and I just going, and it just finally, inevitably, the handcuffs did come off, and yeah, it all worked out with the Force. So there you have it.
Yes, the Force works in mysterious ways.
Yes, it does.
Eman, did you have something? I saw you like...
Oh, yeah, I did have a moment. I remembered when we were doing the Night Trooper stuff, the first time that they resurrect.
Spoilers.
It was a long day, and that was like one of the last things we were doing. So we were all like, okay, you know, between takes we were like, and then on action it was like, okay, that's where all our energy would go. So we're kind of just waiting between takes, and then they're like, we're gonna do it one more time. We're all like, okay, one more time, you know, like we're close to the end here. And then instead of doing it one more time, they played Thriller.
No way.
And everybody got up and started dancing, and that was just like so funny, and it was such a perfect moment. We were all like tired and vulnerable. So that was a really funny BTS thing. That was a Rick Famuyiwa choice, which was cool.
That's so good.
But that was one, yeah.
Oh, how cool. Well, that kind of makes me think of a new question. So getting ready to play these characters is it's a big deal, and you sort of need to have a preset ritual. It's set in place. So do you guys have a song you listen to before you get into your character, or anything that like really makes you get into the character? It could be a song, a book,
I'd say I use music a lot. I mean, not in this particular case, but you know, if you have a scene that is, you know, requires something emotional from you, it's really nice to set it up with some music in advance, so you get into that sort of sentimental, that state. Yeah. So I use it a lot. Yeah.
I'm blue, da doo dee da doo da.
Blue moon.
Okay.
The musical.
There is a musical coming. Yeah, the musical is coming. Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna get a call from Dave for sure.
Oh, 100%.
What are you talking about? No musical for it.
Could you imagine?
I actually just realized every morning my thing was like an incense, Nag Champa, and I would play Billie Holiday's Solitude. In my solitude, but didn't think anything of, like, I also use music usually, but like Ezra felt very natural, so I didn't. But now that I think about it, Ezra would have been listening to that song, In My Solitude. Like, Ezra was all alone out there, so he probably was, you know what I mean? Indirectly, I was listening to a song that perfectly matched Ezra on Peridia, alone.
Gosh. Incredible.
I was like DJ on set because it takes so long to do my makeup, so it was like, you know, we'd get there before Crafty was there, we were there before breakfast was being served, before most of the crew was there. And so, you know, it was Gabby and Alexi who were doing my makeup, and we would just be there, and I would play different playlists and stuff, and sometimes I would go a little too hard and put like dubstep or something like that on. And I remember like they were both doing my makeup, and Gabby was like, I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack because like the music was just like so intense. She was just like, we need to like calm it down. It's like 4:30 in the morning. It's just like it's a little early.
Yeah.
But it was like so dope because it was, you know, this really fun experience of trying to get them to smile and laugh, and they have such a range of musical tastes, and so I would play really different things and try not to repeat anything and just like really go through completely different genres and moods and bands and just different kinds of stuff just to keep it interesting and novel. And we timed ourselves every day to kind of see if we could get through the makeup faster and faster. So it was a really fun like little thing for us.
How long did the AHSOKA makeup take?
It started at 3 hours, but by the end we got it to an hour and a half.
Period. Nice. Diana, do you have a song or anything?
I did. So what I did was, well, two things. I had two processes. Number one, I listened to the call map, and I would listen to LeBron James. I know that, but I loved the way he coaches through the call map. And so I would meditate, and I just loved just listening to what he said. And I treated it almost like an athlete being on that set. Even going back to The Mandalorian with Rosario, the next step is I always created a soundtrack for my characters. So I loved music from Dune, I loved music from The Crown, and I just, depending on what the moment called for, I would just, you know, right before I would just listen to this and just get into this space. And that's what I found, you know, helped me, you know, through the process. Yeah, so that was my process.
Awesome. Well, one thing that also I feel gets you into your character a lot is your influence with martial arts, your experience. I mean, you've done it your entire life, so can you delve sort of into that world and how that influenced your character as Morgan, the magistrate?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because in some ways, how do I explain this? For a long time, I felt as an actress, if I wanted to pursue acting, I almost had to hide the fact that I was a martial artist because some casting directors would not take me seriously, which I never understood because if you look at old Hollywood, you know, with Errol Flynn, he was an amazing swords person. But for me, in my experience, when I first entered the business as somebody of color, they didn't know how to cast me, being half Caucasian and half Asian. And it was just very difficult. And then I found myself for a while a single mom with an autistic child. And so I had to do stunt work just to survive in the business. And thank goodness, I got the inspiration through people like my godfather, the late Bruce Lee, and even people like Jon Favreau, who was already an established actor, but he decided to write and direct. I just thought, let me try to make my own project. So I did a project called The Sensei, and I wrote, directed, produced it, and starred in it. And that is actually how John and Dave found me. John had felt that it was necessary to have an authentic martial artist who was an older woman and who could hopefully act. And Dave goes, okay, well, I'm just going to go on Google and just look up, I think you said badass woman martial artist is what he typed in. And my picture came up from my little independent film I did a long time ago. And they had me come in and read. And then about 3 days or 4 days later, I would find out that I was cast. But I didn't know what it was for until later on I got the call that I would be doing this amazing fight scene with Rosario, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then that's when I heard that I would be using a Beskar spear. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me,
That's the coolest thing they can give you aside from a lightsaber.
Oh,
that's like the coolest
right.
thing. Yeah.
And then I knew who AHSOKA was because of my children. We would watch Clone Wars and, Rebels, and so I just thought I knew what my mission was supposed to be. And as far as martial arts, I was lucky because many of the stunt people have had a dotted line to my father and have trained in martial arts, and they've known that I'm, pretty well versed in different martial arts styles and systems. So they kind of knew how to, customize it to what my ability and my taste. And so for that, I'm just very fortunate. So it's quite been.
We all are.
Yeah. So it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Well, we sure enjoyed it, truly. You are the best. You are the best. So yeah, I guess that leads me to, so we know your story of getting into Star Wars, and Eman, we know yours. Lars, what was your Star Wars story? Like, what got you into it? Did you, watch it before being cast as Thrawn in Rebels?
Yeah, when I was a kid, those 3 first movies was, blew us away in Denmark even. Because nobody's at that point done anything like that. Mm-hmm. Then I think I didn't really watch it until I was approached by Dave, and then I sort of got into it from there. Yeah, and I think he must have seen me in Sherlock.
Oh yeah, awesome, love that.
Because that character has sort of similarities to what he wanted from Thrawn. Yeah, and I must say, the writing was just so good on Rebels that I just understood immediately what I had to do. I didn't really have to read up a lot. I'm doing it now, afterwards. Yeah.
Do you have a new favorite project now that you're catching up with everything?
Hmm?
Do you have a new favorite project in Star Wars that you're now catching up with everything?
Well, I'm reading Timothy's book.
Oh yeah. Oh, Timothy's books are incredible. Yeah. Cool. If you guys have the chance to see Timothy, he's out there. Awesome. No. Yeah. Very cool.
So but my way into it was as a kid. I think it was 14, watching those first movies, and that was my way into it. Yeah.
Very cool. What about you, Rosario? What was your first Star Wars media that you watched?
I don't know. We had it was kind of played all the time. We were very big sci-fi people in my family. We leaned a lot more towards Star Trek. For sure, which Dave always loved that all my references were Star Trek all the time. And though he would hate on it, he would say, actually, no, it was this character or whatever, because he knows Star Trek as well completely.
Of course he does. Of course he does.
So it was always super Trekky. But we'd always be like, the other space cowboy show. But for me, that's I think what made it so special when I did this, because it was something that generationally has had such an impact in my family, And so that first episode that we did together, watching that with my mom and having her hear me say, "May the force be with you" for the first time, and it being like official, you know, like we say as we're kids, you can't fall in the lava, you gotta keep the high ground, and keep your sabers out, when you're playing as kids jumping from couch to couch. But now all of a sudden she's watching me do this on screen, and I just never forget that like slow look over at me at the end of that episode with tears in her eyes, just like couldn't believe it, and then I just did a reading. I've done a couple readings of different stuff with Mark Hamill, which always gets me every time he does like the little Joker giggle. Like it freaks me out. It's so fun. Because he does giggle like that. It's amazing. So we did like a reading of, It's a Wonderful Life. And just recently we just did a reading of Fright Night together.
Oh, cool.
The podcast just came up and out. And so she got to meet him, which was really cool because she came to that. And I always try to be like, don't squish the celebrities too hard, because she's tall Puerto Rican from the Bronx, and she gets really excited. She's an Aquarius. What are you going to do? She's a little handsy.
Aquarius is, yeah. So a big thing for actors when getting into the roles is always the costumes. With the genius of Shauna Terpsik, who was an incredible costume designer on Ahsoka and so many other Star Wars, and Firefly as well. So she was the lead costume designer on Ahsoka. It's safe to say the visual palette of Ahsoka made a huge impact on everyone watching the show. Is there one specific part of your costume or character that you really loved in particular? It could be a cape, an accessory, a weapon, etc. A wig.
I'm going to go with my cape just because I had such an awesome moment actually with Shauna. Like I remember she had actually stood on line to get the sabers in the box where when you lift it up and the music plays. And I remember we were fitting for the Ahsoka, the white outfit, and Dave was like, and I was signing that at the moment, and he was like, "Wait, what did you just say?" She was like, "Yeah, I had to wait online," and he was like, "Why did you wait online for that for hours?" He's like, "You're Shauna, like you could have absolutely gotten this." She was like, "I wasn't gonna wait for it to get through in the message, whatever." And by the time it came, like I wanted it right now. It just came out. And she was just like so into the details, such a fan. Just like so rigorous about everything, and I mean it was just so powerful and beautiful. And I remember when we first had that whole, when she got the material for it, she was so excited. It was like made in upstate New York, and if you look at it like in up close, you could see it's not just gray. It's got like purple and blue and like these little flecks of different colors in it. It's the stitching, and she just really loved it. And she was wearing the version you could buy at Disney, which was a little lighter, but she'd helped to design and make sure that it was exact. And like, every Star Wars celebration, when they were showing all the costumes, she would be like really detailed in making sure it was presented exactly, because she knew fans would take like really close-up pictures to cosplay it, and she wanted to make sure everything was accurate for them. Like she lived and breathed it all the time. And up until the end of Mando, of Boba, of Ahsoka, on the last day of shooting and all of those, we were still tweaking things. Like she'd constantly be like, if that's a little uncomfortable, or it'd make it easier to make this movement, then like let's just keep adjusting. Like she just was on it.
Yeah, I love how her first thought is to make her actors comfortable and not just look a certain way. Like of course she's flawless when it comes to making someone look amazing, but like it's nice she cared.
But I also felt like we were wearing pieces of artwork. The details. I even loved like the hakama, because that's what you would use in traditional martial arts, and particularly kendo. And she just understood all those amazing details. I loved what she did for Rey. Rey, to feel close to his family, because we were shooting during the time of the pandemic, and so to feel close to his family, he brought. I guess you could say it was like a type of gem, or do you remember that? The crystal. And she implemented it into his belt. And
was it the green one?
Yes, that was, and then also it was like the glove or something like. And it was just amazing how she put all those specific details in it, and I loved Rey's look, because he's like, I feel like my family's here with me. It was beautiful what she would do.
I wanted to have my Padawan beads on the first one, and then even going into the second look, she was like, and which crystals would you like, and the energy and the colors and whatever. Like she just really, it was personal. Like it didn't matter. Like I have this one piece that's made out of the gray material from the first hood, and it was done for just like before we got off to go on the space whales, I have to pull out the map. And so, like so many things, you don't see any pockets, you don't see any zippers. So going to the bathroom was always interesting. But like, so she made this really beautiful, detailed, like kind of like sack thing that hung that would have been like something you'd really want to wear to a Renaissance fair. Like, it's so dope.
Cosplayers.
But it didn't fit. Like, it was the map was too big, so she had made this like really intricate thing. Like, it's stitched with leather and like really beautifully done. And you can see it's from the costume, it belongs to it. And she was like, well, we can't use it. Do you want it? And I was like, yes. So I still have that in my house. It's like one of my favorite gifts of like this really beautiful detailed thing that she made, knowing it would never be seen, but just thought it could be useful for me in the scene that she just generously made and then gave to me.
Wow, I love that. I love that. What about Lars? Yep. What about you? Did you have a certain aspect of your costume?
Well, I think I loved the whole thing. I mean, it's just, it was so funny the first day I came to set, because everybody had been waiting for the character to come, you know, and everybody was like, ooh, there he is, the dude's here. Yeah. So, yeah, but I mean, a specific thing, it would be the data sticks, you know, to be this bloke coming, taking the data sticks when we finish, putting them in. That was fun, yeah. Yeah, didn't feel right until I had the data sticks. Yeah. No, but I loved the whole thing. I mean, and like they say, she was, you know, willing to adapt and everything. I mean, it's a good suit, man. Yeah,
it is a really cool suit. Yeah. It's a really cool suit.
Impressed you never got any ketchup on them.
I was about to. Did you stain it at all?
Yeah, because my thing is hot dogs. I like hot dogs. Yeah.
And did they have that at Crafty? What was the best thing at Crafty, by the way? Do you have like a favorite food?
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
To just see this blue man in this white outfit with this hot dog that, I mean, it's with the red on, like, and the, like, it's so graphic. Like, every time I would see it, I would just be like, attack of cuteness. I don't think I have that many pictures other than taking multiple pictures of you eating hot dogs. Yep. Just because it was just like, what am I seeing right now? This is so awesome.
Yeah.
It's like crossing the streams.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we took some really fun pictures behind scenes. You know,
we saw a couple of them on Instagram.
Okay.
And a video too.
Yeah, also of him, you know, sweeping the floor, you know, doing sort of ordinary stuff, you know.
Dancing.
Yeah, no, but I love the whole thing. Yeah.
Love it. I love it.
I thought it was, like they were saying, so interesting because I'd never worked with a costume designer. I'd only ever done, well, I'd worked with one on a film that was for the Marines, so a lot of it was to be very Marine specific as opposed to creative and new, which was what we did for Ezra's Peridia outfit. And everything she would bring to me, she would also bring the history of its inspiration. And so it was almost like being in a history class specifically for fashion and costume design, which was just like getting invited into the brain of a mad genius. You know what I mean? It was like, whoa, you got this from that and this from this and this from... It was just brilliant. And there was a couple things. One, which I want to grab. Liz, can you hear me, Liz? Can you please throw me that bag? The brown leather bag. Yeah. So I never used to wear bags. That's so nice, thank you. This is a bag I wear that just like hangs right here. And I'm only using it for demonstration because I have one similar to this that became like my everyday bag that a friend gifted me, and I didn't know I needed bags. Like once he gave it to me, I was like, whoa, I need to wear this every day.
Merce.
I have, Merce.
Merce.
My satchel. I'm like Alan from The Hangover. And so I started wearing this and I loved it. Like it was one of my favorite, I was like, all right, let me pack my bag. I'd pack snacks and whatever. And then one of the days I come into the fitting, one of the earlier days, and Shauna's like so excited, and she's telling me like, oh my God, and we built out this beautiful little leather pouch that you're gonna have right here, and we think it's so Ezra, blah, blah. And I was like, little leather pouch? And she was like, yeah, and she hadn't seen me, I don't know, she was like so in the explanation, and I was like, kind of like this one? And she like looks up, and the other two costume designers look up, and they're like, yeah, exactly like that one. And I was like, that's awesome, because I love this bag. Like, so even my character outfit had this little brown leather bag, and I would put my stuff in there. I would put my phone or my snacks, you know, my fruit snacks from Crafty. So that was like a sweet, like childish thing that I felt connected to my suit with. But then she was super detailed, and because she knew I was going to do a lot of running and jumping and kicking. So every time they fitted me, they'd be like, all right, do you feel like you can fight in that? And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to test it. And they'd be like, test it. And I would just do something ridiculous, and I tore the pants. And I would just like move. I feel so bad, you know, because they worked tirelessly on these things. And I was like, oh, and they were like, it's okay. We're supposed to know when that happens, you know, and then they would fix it and put spandex instead. And so it was really interesting to work with people who, you know, to that degree, right? They're like masters of a craft. And to be able to be the mannequin, essentially, for something, and then bring that outfit to life and put it into action and have it exist. And now it's in Legos and toys, and it's like, it's awesome.
Do you guys own any of the character, like the action figures or Legos that they made of your characters?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. That's like the coolest thing. That was like for a Shauna memory, like that was, you know, she's so integral to my entire experience, because I remember the first time going to do a fitting and putting on the costume and it being a new AHSOKA costume. You know, we've seen her in so many different looks since she was a teenager on, and now with these other shorts that are coming out with her as like a baby. And to like put it on, and I remember I was like doing literal jumping jacks. Like I was freaking out, and we were like giggling and jumping and like doing all this kind of stuff, and then trying to be cool when like John and Dave come in, because it was like, don't fire me, because I know I'm hyper. Like, don't freak out. Like, this is still a good idea, guys, for real. But we were just like so excited, just the fact that it was like, this isn't cosplay. This is a new outfit. This is a new storyline. This is a new adventure. Like, we're really doing this. And so I remember she would tell me when like Hayden had his Clone Wars outfit, or when you first put on the Stormtrooper outfit. And it was like, she called me and she was like, do you want to see it? And she was like, yes, I do. Like, she knew I loved it as much as she did. And so I remember we had to like sneak and go to the other room to see you. And I was like, almost cried, because I was like, oh my God, it's like Ezra always does, puts on a Stormtrooper outfit, but it's a new one. It's our one, because it's got gold stitching and the red and everything. And I was like, this is so dope. You remember that? It was like at night. It was like we ran from one stage just to run over really quickly in between takes so that I could see it and be one of the first people to see it when the first time you put it on. It was amazing.
Yeah. Cool experience. And to see it at night was probably a little scary, maybe with the thing on. Those zombies were like terrifying.
Yeah, I can be very intimidating.
Yeah. It's true.
But you've met me, you know.
You're very intimidating. Yeah. It's like, yeah, Jabba. So yeah, I mean, your experience on set must have been, it sounds like it was just the best time ever, and especially being in the volume, you're like completely encapsulated by whatever planet you're on. Like, it's incredible. So tell me a little bit about your experience with that, and also in some of the behind the scenes footage, we see you guys, some of you, I think Eman, riding a horse on set. Did you do that? Because, well, the wolves on Peridia were actually horses, or like a... Yeah.
We did ride real horses. Yes, we did ride real horses.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Machine ones.
And machine horses that weren't as comfortable.
They were blue. Yeah.
That I had to have a lot of padding for. Yeah. But I got through it, and we got through it.
That's great.
And it works. Great. It looks, the howlers look amazing.
They look awesome.
Which the fur of the howlers is actually based on Dave's dog Wolfie's fur. Wolfie. So it's kind of like giant Wolfies, like of Dave's dog, which is just adorable. Yep. But yeah, we were on real horses. We did horse riding together, like trained. They trained us how to ride a horse, and one of the days, Ro and I were just out there trotting. Oh. I'm like, oh, did you see that thing last night? Yeah, it was crazy last night. Oh.
See that blue guy? Yeah, that blue guy? Weird, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
The guy who had that ranch was like, his daughter really loved AHSOKA and loved Clone Wars, and they had all these other animals that they worked with, and one of them was a camel or something like that, and they're like, our camel's named AHSOKA, and I was like, oh, cool.
Love that.
Sick.
Yeah, I love that. But I'll never forget the first time I saw the horses on set. It was on the volume. And they needed to use one for the take. I think it was with Balin on a horse, being that what was going to be one of the wolves. But they always had 2 horses so that they could be calm with all of, being on a set indoors with all of these people. And they were both covered in blue material because in there they were doing it as blue screen. And I remember I burst into tears because my grandmother always used to say if you said something was amazing, she'd go, amazing is 2 blue horses.
Oh!
And even when she passed, I made 2 giant 6-foot-tall rocking horses that were blue that said amazing is 2 blue horses on them. And I put them at Burning Man that people could ride as these like 2 big blue horses. Like 2 blue horses is like very meaningful to me. Like seriously, I get emotional just thinking about it. And I walk on set and I see 2 blue horses. And I was like, I had to sit down, like I freaked out, like it was such and then they explained what it was, but I was like, it doesn't even matter, like that's just so special, and just to feel like she was there, because I know my grandmother like loved comics, she loved all of that whole world. Her mother threw away her #1 Superman and all these things she had, I know. So my uncle's a comic book artist, and she was like so into him doing that art, which is such a big reason why I'm so engaged in like so much of the community and the world of it all, because my grandmother had such an affinity for it, and her mother wasn't as supportive, and she always wanted to be like that, so it just was dope to feel like she was on set with us.
It's incredible. She definitely was. That's such a wonderful story. Wow. Well, Lars, do you have any interesting experiences on set in the volume?
Come again?
In the volume, the big LED surround stage.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, that you turn around and you can actually look what you're standing in. I mean, as opposed to green screen, blue screen, whatever. I mean, where somebody needs to explain to you, you're actually standing on the top of a mountain.
Everything's green.
You can actually see it, and that is phenomenal. And then that sort of mixed with the dolls. First day, I felt good. It worked what I did. So I went over and asked one of the droids out for dinner. And it actually responded to me. And I went, wow. Wow.
Hot
and then
dogs,
this
right?
little guy under the stage came up. Amazing, man. That's, good to be a part of this, man. Yeah.
That's so cool. What about you, Diana? What about you?
I mean, for me, I remember when I first saw the volume, I was actually overwhelmed because I keep using the reference that it was like NASA to me, to see all the people behind the scenes that are operating it. What nobody warned me is you had to be careful, because when we were on the bridge, I'm going back to The Mandalorian too, and nobody warned me that you had to be careful, because if you're watching it and it moves, you might fall over. Yeah. And a couple times I was like, why am I falling? Yeah. And I didn't realize. So
I guess for those who don't know, whenever you're filming in the volume, and to make it look more fluid and real, it has to move at the same time as the camera. So it's very, I wonder how
it's very complex, but nobody warned me. And but it is a magnificent piece of technology, and totally state of the art. So it's just brilliant, and I can't even say enough about it. And it makes the process too of being in the moment even that much more easier. Because you really do feel like you're in a galaxy far, far away. It's just incredible. Yeah.
Very cool.
It's wild, because like the same space that we did our fight is the same place that I meet Grogu or have the scene in the moon, is the same space that the Balin fight is on the top of a mountain, is the same space where you have the ship with the Night Sisters. Like, it's just amazing. Like, every single day, like, there was just 24-hour Star Wars, and you would just have a ship in there, and then it would be this planet, and then that planet, and like, it just overnight, you'd walk in and be like, wait, is this the same space? And not only the screens have changed, but like the foliage and the things that they had that made that transition would be moved, and you just realized overnight they were working and transforming this to literally like another galaxy. It just was absolutely incredible to feel like so much of this was shot in the exact same room.
Wow, I never thought about that. That's so interesting. So, like, the same place where Luke came to get Grogu is the same place that
Lars asked out the droid. Yeah.
Lars asked out the droid. That's a good place to leave it. Well, I guess now for the elephant in the room, will we be seeing more AHSOKA in the future? Perhaps in season 2? Do you guys want a season 2?
That's me, yeah. Yes, we're very excited about, hopefully being able to play together again and start that process soon, But that's literally. I know. I literally told you that backstage. I keep hearing that all the time. Like they can resurrect life.
He's alive. He's alive. He's alive.
Yeah, right. I know it's the Night Sister Forte, but I don't know what Dave is going to say. I think Dave's just going to say like what he told me. You're just so dead. You're very dead. And I'm like, okay, I'm so very dead. All right, thank you.
Love it. Well, I know for sure we definitely want to see more of you guys, and I'm excited for the future of Star Wars. It's going to be incredible. Well, thank you guys so much. A big round of applause to all of these incredible actors. Thank you. Awesome. And you guys have a wonderful rest of your con. Meet them at their tables.
Thank you, Carly.
Thank you, guys.